Don Borelli back in formally with the FBI. Don, you were kind of gesturing to me as Tom Costello was mentioning that they had detonated what they believed to have been an undetonated suicide belt found at the airport there. And I asked the question out loud, you know, obviously they have to do that to avoid further injuries if that goes up, but what do they lose in terms of evidence?
They will lose some, but it depends on how they render this device safe. And they have certain, depending on the device, render safe procedures. And in many cases, what these trained technicians will try to do is take out the triggering device so it allows the explosive to not, the main charge not to go off. I mean, that's the best case scenario. And of course, they're using robots and very sophisticated equipment. If the device does detonate, certainly they can contain that, so they'll get all the remnants of it into a confined space. So yes, do you lose some of the evidence, but doing it in this way will allow you to still maintain a lot of very useful evidence.
And to follow on to that, I mean, what kind of evidence might you get from that?
Anything from DNA, fingerprints, and ultimately these bomb makers, kind of a lot of them have their own signature, the way they put a device together, the pieces they use, so they can compare it and potentially say the same person built this device as built Paris or possibly even Istanbul and other places where we've seen these IEDs.
I'm trying to think if, you know, if it was found on the floor in the airport, does that automatically mean that someone escaped?
Yeah, I think not automatically, but you have to act under the presumption at this point that there's somebody on the run. I think you're always going to err on the side that we did not get them all until proven otherwise.
By the way, there's got to be, I mean, surveillance. We live in a place where there are just cameras everywhere. If it's not an iPhone, it's a closed-circuit camera. And this is Europe, after all, at an airport. You've got to believe they're poring over footage and maybe are able to see that.
Absolutely. That's going to be one of the first things they're doing. They'll be interviewing those that, you know, are able to be interviewed that aren't injured. A lot of work going on right now, and just the crime scene itself, because that evidence is perishable, and so you want to get a crime scene processed as soon as possible, but you also want to get the subway and the airport up and running as soon as possible.
Your point on the camera is a really good point, and you have to figure that within the next couple of hours we may in fact see images of the actual explosions.
And if there are other people around, and to the extent, you know, that if the authorities choose to show images of people that are on the run, that crowdsourcing can be a very powerful tool. We saw that with Boston Marathon.
Okay, Don Borelli. Don, thank you very much for your perspective.